Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and like. Our series begins with our hero John, who is a famous veterinarian. His clinic is always crowded, especially with women, not because he's such a great doctor, but because he's handsome, and every girl wants to be with him. One time, while he's examining a dog, he reassures its owner that it's fine, but she keeps flirting with him and says, "I actually know someone who's sicker than the dog, me." He tells her, "Pull yourself together, ma'am. This isn't the time or place," since he's a respectable guy. Suddenly, he gets a call and learns that his grandfather is sick and wants to see him. He rushes out, borrows his friend's car, and speeds to the village where his grandfather lives to check on him. He keeps calling him on the way, but there's no answer, so he drives even faster. When he reaches the house, he knocks and calls out, but the door is locked. He's about to jump over the fence when, at that moment, he's seen by our heroine, Sarah, who works as a police officer. She thinks he's a thief, runs after him, catches him, and says, "Got you, you shameless thief, trying to rob an old man's house in broad daylight." He tells her he's there to visit his grandfather and that he's a veterinarian, and he shows her his ID to prove it. Sarah realizes he's telling the truth and lets him go, saying there's no one in the house. He grabs her hand and asks her to help him find his grandfather. Suddenly, her policeman friend arrives, misunderstands the situation, rushes at John, trips, and knocks him to the ground. Poor John immediately faints. When he wakes up, he finds himself in his grandfather's veterinary clinic. Sarah tells him that his grandparents traveled on a trip and asked them to give him the keys to the house and clinic. John is confused and doesn't understand anything. Suddenly, he gets a call from his grandfather, who laughs and says, "Did you drink it, Crota?" joking with him and admitting it was all a prank to make him come to the village as fast as possible. He tells him to take care of the clinic until he returns and reassures him that he already arranged leave for him from his city job, then hangs up. Everyone laughs about the prank pulled on our hero, but John still hasn't fully processed what's happening. Suddenly, a farmer walks in carrying a turkey and says, "Do your job, doctor." John says, "So now I'm a village doctor? Everyone's laughing at me." After that, he leaves the clinic feeling frustrated and unsure how he's going to live in the village. But Sarah follows him, impressed by his looks, staring at him as if her heart beats 3 times, once for like, once for subscribe, and once for turning on notifications. She apologizes for the misunderstanding between them and offers to drive him in her car. He reluctantly agrees, calls his friend, and tells him what happened, saying he can't live in the countryside. Suddenly, Sarah bumps into a farmer, and he falls into the water. Instead of apologizing properly, she says, "You're not going to open, old man?" Of course, the man is angry because his clothes are ruined, but she just casually says, "Sorry," and he immediately forgives her and leaves. John is surprised that things ended so easily and realizes that the villagers are kind and don't like trouble, unlike the city, where they'd already be filing reports and fighting each other. Then Sarah takes him to a farmer who had complained that his chickens were disappearing from the farm, but when they arrive, he tells her the problem is solved. He caught the dog that was eating them and benefited from it. Then Sarah gets a call and learns that there's a sick goat, and she asks John to go examine it. He tells her it's his time off, but she says, "Here in the village, there's no such thing as time off. If anyone calls you, you go immediately." John is shocked and understands why his grandfather escaped the village. He realizes he's doomed and reluctantly goes with her. Sarah takes a shortcut to get there faster, but John isn't used to it, slips, and falls into the water. When they reach the goat, he finds it aggressive and is scared it'll beat him up, but he has no choice. He treats it successfully. He goes home soaked and exhausted, thinking he'll finally rest, but he finds village women in his house welcoming him. He's shocked that they're so comfortable, walking in as if it's their own home. He tells them, "If this were the city, I'd have filed a report against you all." But they laugh and say, "Oh dear, that city atmosphere doesn't exist here. We're all one family. We come and go freely." Sarah takes him away to let him rest. John still doesn't understand what's happening in the village or how to get used to rural life. He enters his grandfather's room and finds a letter from him apologizing and saying, "I've been working in this village for 50 years, my son. I need to rest now," and asking John to work in his place until he returns. John is touched by his kind grandfather's words and decides to endure it for his sake. He goes to his room and falls asleep from exhaustion. The next morning, he wakes up to loud microphone announcements and hears the village mayor speaking, saying, "Everyone, John, the grandson of our village doctor, is here," and asking them all to welcome him. Later, John goes out to exercise, but every step he takes, people stop him for hugs. "We missed you, son of the dear one." Even the women keep flirting with him, saying, "That's it? You're marrying my future daughter," and "This one is your wife from now on, and don't move," as if they've never seen a young man before. He feels like he can't breathe and is forced to go back home, but he sees a child open the door and walk into his house. He's shocked and says, "Is this my house? Or did I get the wrong address?" He confirms it's his house and asks the boy, "What are you doing here, buddy?" The boy replies coldly, "Sorry, uncle. My ball fell in here and I was just getting it. No big deal." John tries to explain that he shouldn't enter someone's house when they're not home and that next time he should wait, but the boy gets upset and tells him he's rude. "Your grandfather used to let me in freely." Sarah sees him and says, "Sorry, uncle. He's not used to you yet," and reassures John that he'll only stay a few days until his grandfather returns, and then he can relax. The boy says, "Fine, I'll be patient these 2 days for the respectable grandfather's sake." After that, John rides a bicycle, completely fed up with the village. He goes to the clinic, where the nurse tells him, "You have a pig vaccination today." He replies, "What pig? I swear I don't know how. They never taught me that before." He calls his friend and asks how to vaccinate pigs, saying, "Good Lord, the last thing I vaccinated was a dog, and once, a cat." They laugh and figure things out, and then he heads to the farm. He starts thinking that Sarah is there just to help him, but he's surprised that she keeps showing up everywhere, as if she specializes in farms. They go into the barn together and realize there are many animals, so the two of them start rushing around vaccinating them, and of course, they're pigs. When they finish, Sarah trips and almost falls on her back, but as everyone expects, he catches her in time. It wouldn't be a Korean drama without that. She feels embarrassed that he got so close, pushes him away, and he falls instead. Sarah apologizes and takes him so he can change his clothes. Then she invites him for coffee again to thank him. There, he meets the cafe owner and notices he's the same guy Sarah had hit with her car before. The guy introduces himself as young and tells John, "Be careful. The person you'll see the most around here is Sarah." John replies, "She already pops up everywhere, soon in my dreams, and even in the bathroom." When they finish their coffee, Young looks surprised and doesn't want to take his money, saying, "You're our guest, and it's your first time here." John says, "No, sorry, I have to refuse. There should be boundaries in dealing with people," then leaves. Sarah explains that this is just his nature, because he lived in the city and isn't used to village life. Later, John goes back to the clinic and asks the nurse about Sarah, because he's surprised she keeps showing up everywhere like a monkey. The nurse tells him that's just her nature. She's kind and loves helping people, which is why everyone in the village loves her and forgives her no matter what she does. But John isn't convinced and says she's nosy and interferes in people's privacy. Then the nurse gets a call and learns that a herd of goats is sick, and she asks John to go treat them. He reluctantly agrees and goes to the farm, chasing after them all day until he's completely out of breath. At the end of the day, he decides to go home and rest, but he sees Sarah there trying to enter the house. He gets angry and tells her to learn to respect people's privacy. She grabs him and tells him to lower his voice, saying there's a thief inside and she's there to arrest him. They go in together, and she turns out to be right. They find him inside. As soon as the thief sees her, he gets scared and runs. John tries to catch him, but trips, and they both fall. Sarah manages to catch the thief and hands him over to the police, then goes back to help John. But John is embarrassed and tells her he can get up on his own. He slips again and almost falls, but she catches him and holds his hand, and they stare at each other for a moment. Then they go to the police station, where they learn the thief just wanted money to buy a gift for his girlfriend's birthday. His mother shows up, and she's from a neighboring village, and she asks John to forgive him this time and drop the charges, saying her son made a mistake and she can't control him. Then the village head arrives. She has a feud with the thief's mother and says, "John, don't you dare. Shame on you if you drop the charges. You won't be one of us." The two women start arguing. The thief's mother says, "John, if you drop the charges, I'll marry you to my niece." The village head replies, "Don't listen to her. I'll marry you to her grandmother. Do you think our village has no pretty girls? How about I marry you to our Sarah this moon?" John shouts, "Guys, do I really look that desperate to get married? I don't want Sarah or Sarah's mom. I'm already engaged to someone in the city, and I'll never live in the village." In the end, John decides to forgive the young man and drop the charges completely, since nothing was stolen. He leaves the station, and Sarah tries to calm him down and follows him as usual, offering to drive him, but he's fed up and tells her to leave him alone and stop following him everywhere because he's tired of her. He leaves, and Sarah is hurt by his words. She goes to drink coffee with Young to improve her mood. Meanwhile, John goes home and cleans until he's exhausted, then spreads out on the floor and falls asleep. The next day, he wakes up with back pain, endures it, and heads to the clinic, where he runs into Sarah. She says, "I'm not here because of you. I'm taking a kid to school," then leaves. John notices her behavior this time and realizes she's upset about yesterday, but he's cold-hearted and doesn't care, happy that he's finally rid of her. On his way to work, he sees a village woman asking Sarah about her mother, who left long ago. He sees how sad Sarah looks and realizes she helps people because she wants a family of her own. He feels sorry for her and starts sympathizing with her. He sees her walking alone and offers her a ride on his his bicycle, but she refuses politely and goes on her own. He goes to the clinic and spends the whole day thinking about her, not knowing how to make it up to her. After work, he decides to go to the cafe for coffee and coincidentally runs into her there. But before he can talk to her, a village woman asks them to help collect the harvest, so they go together. They work side by side, and John takes the chance to apologize for what he said. She laughs and says, "I'm a police officer. I don't get upset over silly things," and they make up. Something clearly starts between them, and rumors begin flying. "Our guy's getting married!" And who else but Sarah? Young notices and feels jealous. It seems he likes Sarah too. Later, John goes to Young because he wants to buy a car from him for his grandfather, so he can use it for work when he returns. But Young isn't in the mood because he feels John looks down on the villagers, so he raises the price on purpose. Sarah steps in and asks him to make it easy this time and lower the price a bit. She keeps insisting, but he refuses. Then she tells John, "I know someone who sells cars. If we pretend we're a couple in front of him, he'll give us a really cheap price." Her plan works, and Young changes his mind, gives John the car keys, and says, "If you don't want to pay, consider the money already delivered, boss." All just because they pretended to be a couple. John is happy, takes the car, and leaves. Afterward, Young asks Sarah why she helps John so much, even though he treats her badly. She's forced to confess the truth. They were childhood friends, but he forgot her, sadly. She says, "But I'll never forget him. I left things like this so he could remember me on his own. He hates the village and will leave anyway, so if he doesn't remember me during this time, then it's for the best. At least he won't get attached to me again." The next day, John goes to the clinic and takes advantage of the injured dog not being there to ask the nurse about it. Suddenly, Sarah walks in with the dog, and he learns she took it out for a walk to improve its mood. She asks what he plans to do with it, and he tells her that it has already recovered from its injury. She decides to adopt him and says, "That's it. Consider him mine. I've gotten used to him." She builds him a little house in her garden and keeps playing with him and taking care of him. She remembers a flashback from when she was young, laughing when she received a dog as a gift, and since then, she's loved animals. But she's sad that John forgot their memories together. Unlike silly John, who's happy that she loves animals just like him. He goes to have lunch with her, not knowing who she really is yet, but he notices that she's busy. Every few minutes, someone from the village calls asking for her help. He admires how much she loves helping people, and they walk together through the village. Sarah asks him about his girlfriend, and he gets nervous, says he misses her, and it's clear he's hiding something, so he changes the subject and asks about the dog. She tells him she named him after her old dog, and that she'll take care of him. John feels touched and realizes he was unfair to her. Young sees them together, and of course, gets jealous. He goes to talk to her and threatens John that if he hurts her, he'll regret it. John is surprised by his behavior because they're friends and there's nothing between them. He goes to the clinic to continue his work, and suddenly, Sarah comes in crying, saying her dog ran away from home and escaped. She's devastated and worried about him. John tries to comfort her and insists on going with her to look for him. They search the whole village, and John sees the dog running toward the woods, follows him, and realizes he's married and was just checking on his family. He calls Sarah, and when she sees the dog, she takes him back and decides to let him visit his puppies every day. Later, John gets a call from the village chief, who asks him to come because her cow is giving birth. Sarah goes with him again to help. The cow's condition is very difficult, but they work together and successfully deliver the calf. The chief is happy and thankful and decides to throw a party for the occasion, insisting that they attend the cow's birthday party. John has no choice but to agree. That night, he goes to the party and finds the whole village there, laughing at their customs. He sits next to Sarah, and Young arrives and sits next to her too. As usual, the two feel jealous of each other since they both like her. They compete, drink, and each tries to impress her until both get dizzy. The villagers ask Sarah to sing, and she agrees. She starts singing. Everyone reacts enthusiastically, and John is amazed by her beautiful voice. For the first time, he feels warmth, like he's among family, and enjoys himself. The villagers ask him to sing too, but he feels embarrassed and says he's late and has to leave. Sarah decides to walk him home. On the way, she tells him she'll take the dog to visit his puppies tomorrow and asks him to be careful on the road so he doesn't trip, but she's the one who slips and falls on his bicycle, breaking it. She feels embarrassed and amused and tries to fix it, but he worries about her getting hurt and tries to stop her, grabbing her hand. They both get nervous because they're so close. Suddenly, Young arrives and tells Sarah he's worried about her because John was drunk and not fully aware. John says, "Don't worry," and leaves them together and walks away. But he hears Young confess his feelings to her and say that he likes her. The next day, John goes to the clinic. Sarah tries to talk to him, but he ignores her and treats her coldly. She's confused by his behavior and keeps keeps wondering what she did wrong. Meanwhile, Young comes to her with her favorite coffee and asks to talk. He tells her, "I'm confident about my feelings for you. I'm not rushing you for an answer, and I want you to think carefully before replying." John sees them together while sitting in his car, assumes they're together, feels jealous, and goes back to work. When he returns to the clinic, the nurse tells him that Sarah went to the forest to rescue puppies. He's shocked she went alone and rushes to find her to make sure she's okay. Sarah is happy he came to help her, but he scolds her when he sees her injured hand, saying she shouldn't do everything by herself. He takes the puppies to the clinic, examines them, vaccinates them, and treats her wound, putting a bandage on it. She's touched by his kindness and thanks him, but she senses he's upset and asks if he's bothered. He says, "Why would I be?" She says, "I don't know, maybe because I broke your bike." But he still refuses to answer. She assumes he's just tired from work and goes home. That night, it's raining, and she keeps wondering what she did wrong. She thinks about calling him, but feels shy. At the same time, Young calls her, but she doesn't answer. Meanwhile, John is also thinking about her and wants to call her, but pride stops him. The next morning, John wakes up to find Young waiting outside his house with the little boy's dog, asking him to treat it because it ate chocolate. He takes the dog to the clinic, where he learns that Sarah is in the hospital. Young tells him she fell off her bike. They find out that happened because she took parts from her own bike to fix John's. John is shocked and feels guilty. Young tries to push him away from her, saying she keeps getting hurt because of him. But John says, "You're just upset and jealous because she cares about me and not you, right?" John rushes to check on Sarah, but as soon as he sees her, he scolds her for not taking care of herself and tells her she can't help people at the expense of her own well-being, then leaves angrily. She's hurt by his words, but she still doesn't listen and goes to the police station to work despite being injured. Her boss gets upset and tells her to rest at home and gives her leave until she recovers, sending an officer with her because it's raining. Sarah thanks him and goes home. Meanwhile, John returns to the clinic and finds the child waiting for him. The boy thanks him for treating the dog and says, "You treat Sarah badly, by the way, even though she's kind and helps you." He tells John to go make up with her. John realizes the boy is right and agrees to apologize, but when he hears a loud crash, he realizes Sarah has been in an accident. He panics, calls her boss to find her location, and rushes there. He arrives just in time to find her car overturned and Sarah unconscious. He remembers a flashback from his childhood. He was traveling with his family to the village in the rain when they had an accident and the car flipped. His grandfather arrived and saved him, but couldn't save his parents, and sadly, John was the only one who survived. Back in the present, he's terrified of losing Sarah. He keeps hitting the glass until he breaks it and manages to save her in time, carries her out, and rushes her to the hospital. He stays by her side while she's unconscious, feeling sorry for her and wanting to hold her hand to comfort her. Young arrives, thanks him for what he did, and asks him to leave. He'll stay with her. John refuses to go and waits in his car until he's reassured about her condition. Sarah wakes up, and the first thing she asks is, "Where's John?" Young is hurt that she's thinking of him, but reassures her that he's fine. He takes her for tests, and then leaves the hospital to drive her home. They see John, and Young feels jealous, but is happy she's okay, then leaves. When Sarah gets home, she wants to message John to thank him, but she feels shy and changes her mind. The next day, she goes to work, and her boss scolds her for not resting. She says, "Rest for what? Look, I'm fine," and insists on going to the clinic to see John and thank him, but she doesn't find him there. At the same time, John is at the cemetery visiting his family. He looks at their photos and feels how much he misses them. When he finishes, he runs into Sarah and checks on her, but suddenly he gets a call from a farmer and has to leave her and go to him. There, he learns that the farmer's bull is in serious condition and in pain because of old age, and unfortunately, there's no treatment. The farmer asks John to do the right thing and help him rest, saying, "I considered him part of my family. Enough suffering." John is deeply affected and doesn't know what to do because he's never faced this situation before. He calls his friend and asks for a way to put the bull to sleep without pain. At the same time, there's a meeting between the villagers from two villages, and Sarah and Young go to attend. A fight breaks out between the two sides. They can't stand each other and start throwing insults. Sarah tries to calm them down, saying, "Guys, what's wrong with you? Respect your age." But a woman from the rival village insults Sarah, calling her an orphan with no one. The village chief explodes and says, "Insult me? Fine. Insult the village? Fine. But insult her? No. She's our daughter, and we're her family whether you like it or not." She lunges at the woman, grabs her hair, and they start fighting, almost breaking each other's bones. Sarah jumps in to stop the fight, trying to separate them, saying, "Guys, you've made this too big. I know I'm the reason, but it's okay. If you don't stop, I'll arrest you all and take you to the station." But they ignore her and keep fighting, with Sarah stuck in the middle. When the meeting ends, or rather, when the chaos finally settles, Sarah is hurt by the insults and goes for a walk alone to calm down. Later, John goes to the pharmacy and buys medicine to deal with the bull situation. The farmer is sad, but thanks John for helping. They sit and talk, laugh, and the farmer tells him he knew him when he was young. He was with his grandfather when he saved him from the accident. He asks about Sarah too, saying he always saw them playing together as kids. John is shocked by this, and his memories start coming back. He remembers her from 20 years ago. She was his closest friend, always by his side, comforting him after his parents died. He can't believe he forgot her. He goes to the place they used to sit together, and by coincidence, he finds her there. She's also remembering their moments together, the beautiful times they spent in the village, and how they did everything together. She remembers their farewell, and feels sad that he doesn't remember her. They both just look at each other without speaking, feeling embarrassed, and not knowing what to say. The next day, John waits for her outside her house, so he goes to see her dropping the child off at school, but she doesn't show up, so he's forced to go to the clinic. There, he finds the child waiting for him with his neighbor and one of her friends. She asks him to treat her rabbit, and John starts examining it. He reassures them that it's fine and tells them to go play until he finishes the tests, but the girl refuses and says she'll go play with someone else, then leaves. John notices the boy looks upset and worried, realizes they had a fight, and asks what happened. The boy tells him his friend is upset because he forgot her birthday. I tried to make it up to her, but you know girls, I said her rabbit was sick so I could treat it. Maybe her heart would soften toward me or something, but nothing worked. He asks John to help him and tell him what to do. Of course, our John isn't exactly great with relationships. He tells him, ignore her and she'll come to you. The boy says, really, uncle? And John replies, really, my boy? The boy thanks him, though it looks like he's heading into trouble. He adds, by the way, we're on summer vacation now, so that's why Sarah didn't come to walk me today. Then he leaves. At the end of the day, we see him upset, and Sarah notices and asks what's wrong. He tells her what happened and says, after I followed John's advice, my friend got even more upset. She's not even replying to me now. Sarah tells him, you can't do that. You have to apologize to your friend and keep trying until she forgives you. The boy agrees and says, really, Auntie? She replies, really, my dear? But then he goes back to John in tears and says, shame on you and Sarah. You ruined my life. Your advice destroyed my home. This is what happens when I listen to you. John tries to calm him down and says, okay, just explain what happened. The boy says, my friend was confused by my behavior. She said, do you have split personality or what? 1 minute you ignore me, the next you apologize. Then she left and walked away. John tells him, my son, I meant you should act cool and disappear from her life until she realizes your value and is the one who talks to you. The boy listens and says, really, uncle? John replies, really, my boy? The boy says, so you're not leading me astray. I'm listening to you because you're in a relationship in the city, unlike Sarah, who's never loved before. John says, no, don't worry. I'm in a relationship. Later, John is heading home and runs into Sarah by coincidence. He freezes when he sees her because he remembers she's his childhood friend. Sarah thanks him for saving her life during the accident, and John wants to tell her that he remembered her, but Young arrives and cuts their conversation short. John leaves and goes back to the clinic, where he finds the girl waiting for him, showing him a message from her friend saying he'll stay away for a while, disappear from her life, and that no one should look for him. He's run away from home. John is shocked by what happened, feels responsible, and rushes to ask Sarah. She says she doesn't know where he is, then insists on going with him to look for him. They roam the whole village, talking and blaming each other, since each one's advice caused what happened. They get in his car and go to the place where the boy usually meets his friend, and they actually find him sitting there alone. They run to him and learn that his friend's heart softened and she forgave him. He's happy and thanks John because his advice worked. They take him home. After that, John realizes that Sarah loves apologies. He holds her hand and apologizes for forgetting her all this time, even though she never forgot him. He tells her, our memories together are back. They were the best moments. And so you'll forgive me. This is a gift from me, a bicycle. Sarah feels embarrassed and says, you could have done that earlier, but she's happy he finally remembered her. The next day, she goes to work on the bike, keeps looking at it and ringing the bell happily, and her boss is surprised by her behavior, thinking she's worried about riding too fast, but she remembers what happened yesterday when John walked her home, and it was clear he admired her. Later, John goes to the clinic, and when he arrives, a woman from the rival village is waiting for him. She tells him her mother's dog is sick and asks him to come treat it. My mother is an elderly woman and very attached to him, so I couldn't bring her. John refuses because she had insulted Sarah before, but Sarah says, I forgave her, and asks him to help her. He admires her kindness and agrees to treat the dog. The woman is happy, thanks them, and takes Sarah with her. They go to the village and reach the grandmother's house. She leaves her dog with them since she considers it part of her family. John reassures her he'll take care of it, examines the dog, finds what's wrong, and manages to treat it. The grandmother is happy, thanks him, and gives him fruit from her harvest. He thanks her, says goodbye, and leaves. He tells Sarah, "I'll drive this time on the way back." But on their way, they're surprised to find the car tire is flat. They're forced to take it to a repair shop, and the mechanic tells them it'll take time to fix. He suggests they go change the mood by going to the beach until he's done, and they agree. They decide to go, and she apologizes to Sarah for being the reason he came to the village. He says he's not upset at all. On the contrary, he's happy because he got a change of scenery and saw beautiful views like this. He takes the opportunity to walk along the beach, and they eat ice cream like old times, spend a nice time together, and grow closer and closer. At the end of the day, they get into the car after it's fixed and return to their village. John walks Sarah all the way home and thanks her for the lovely day. He realizes he enjoyed being with her and wanted to confess his feelings too, but good things never last. Suddenly, his ex-girlfriend appears, running toward him and saying she missed him. Sarah gets upset by what happens, feels jealous, and walks away to leave them alone. John gets tense and takes his ex to the clinic, asking why she followed them when they broke up a year ago. She tells him she still loves him and wants them to get back together, promising to treat him well and care about him. She laughs at his friend, who came with her to walk her home and make sure she's okay. John gets angry because she did that behind his back and tells her to leave because it's not right for her to stay with him, but she refuses and says, "I'll stay in the village for a week, and during that time, I'll convince you to come back to me." When Sarah returns home, she finds the village chief at her place cleaning and tells her that John's ex will be staying with her since there isn't a single empty house in the village. Sarah is forced to agree because she loves helping people and can't refuse anyone's request. John arrives with his ex, and the chief welcomes them, saying they look perfect together. John gets nervous and tries to explain they broke up, but his ex doesn't give him a chance and grabs his hand. The chief gets happy about their relationship and says that Sarah and Young are also together and want to get married, so they should hold both weddings on the same day and celebrate everyone. Sarah feels upset but doesn't show it. She takes John's ex to show her room, then leaves to change her clothes. When she comes out, Young asks her to go for a walk with him, and she agrees. On the way, he asks if she's thought about what he said and whether she agrees to be in a relationship. Sarah hesitates and tries to answer, but suddenly, John appears and cuts their conversation short. He finds out that the woman who came is his ex, and that he's not in a relationship at all, and that what happened was a misunderstanding. Young gets angry that John interrupted them and says, "So you came especially just to tell her that?" John gets nervous and says, "No, I just happened to be passing by, saw you, and came to mess with you." They start arguing like children, and Sarah gets fed up with them, leaves, and goes back home. John's ex explains to Sarah that she and John were in college together, but she traveled abroad, which is why they broke up. She asks Sarah to help her get back with him because she still loves him. Sarah feels embarrassed and is forced to agree, even though she doesn't want to. The next day, when Sarah wakes up, she finds her using her makeup and even putting some on her too. People start to be surprised by her appearance, but John's ex gives her confidence and tells her she's beautiful. She takes Sarah to a cafe to drink coffee, and Young sees her and is impressed by her beauty. He tells her the makeup suits her and takes advantage of the moment to take a picture of her because it's the first time he's seen her look this beautiful. She gets angry and tries to take his phone to delete the picture, but he refuses and insists on keeping it. John's ex sees them and thinks they're in a relationship, so she gets the clinic's address from them and decides to go to her boyfriend. When she arrives, she finds the boy there, and he realizes she's John's ex. He tells her, "By the way, John doesn't love you, he loves someone else." She's surprised and asks why he says that. He tells her that John cares about Sarah and saved her life more than once. She's affected by his words and starts to worry there's something between them, so she decides to get closer to John. Later, Sarah goes to work, and her boss takes advantage of seeing her appearance and immediately says, "So, did you get into a relationship or what?" She teases him and says, "It was just a little lipstick I put on. Imagine if I wore eyeliner, I'd steal all the beauty." He laughs and says, "True, true." At that moment, John sees her picture with makeup and keeps staring at her beauty. Suddenly, his ex walks in with coffee for him and asks him to go out with her, but the nurse comes and tells him there's a farmer who wants to vaccinate his animals. His ex insists on sticking close to him and goes with him to help. Meanwhile, Sarah is going around the village to see if anyone needs anything and sees them together. She feels jealous and goes to wash her face to remove remove the makeup. John's ex sees her and is surprised, asking why she did that. Sarah hesitates and says that's just the nature of her job, and that as a police officer, she can't wear makeup. She gets a call from the village chief asking her to come help her, and John decides to go with her. His ex is surprised by his concern for Sarah and starts to feel there really is something between them, so she decides to go too. There, she notices the way he looks at Sarah and realizes they're childhood friends. She feels jealous. Sarah goes into the storage room to move food supplies, and John takes advantage of the opportunity and goes in after her. He notices she's been ignoring him lately and asks if she agreed to be in a relationship with Young. She refuses to answer and instead says his girlfriend suits him because she's like him and they're alike. He tells her that he hasn't even been thinking about girls since they broke up and that he would never go back to his ex because he doesn't love her anymore. He moves closer and asks if there's someone in her life or someone she admires. Her heart starts pounding and she can't answer. She feels embarrassed and leaves. She apologizes to the villagers and goes back to work. There, she finds a box of fruit sent to her by the woman whose dog they treated as thanks. The woman says, "I was going to send it to John, but he asked me to apologize to you because I treated you badly." Sarah is touched and admires what he did. She takes the fruit and goes to give it to John. At that moment, his ex is sitting with him and tells him she's decided to settle in Korea so she can stay with him, while he wants to confess to her that he no longer loves her, but she doesn't give him a chance. She gets close to him and melts into his arms, and Sarah arrives at exactly the wrong moment. The fruit falls to the ground in shock. She freezes, then walks away. John reacts and runs after her, returns her bike, and tries to explain that she misunderstood, but she won't give him a chance and leaves, upset. She keeps wandering around the village, frustrated, and in the end, returns home, where she finds John's ex waiting for her and asking to talk. She asks Sarah if she has feelings for John. Sarah starts to get nervous, but denies it, and says he's just her friend. The ex asks her to stop treating people kindly because they might misunderstand her. Sarah keeps thinking about her words all night and can't sleep. She goes to meet Young at the cafe and asks to talk to him. She says, "I want to tell you my answer," then apologizes and starts crying. Young understands that she's rejecting him, but he comforts her and says, "Relax, girl. You're the one who rejected me, not the other way around." He tries to lift her spirits and promises to stay by her side, and from then on, they'll remain friends as they were. At the same time, John is thinking about her, feeling guilty that her heart was broken. The next day, he goes to the clinic and finds his ex waiting for him. She says the week is over and asks if he'll come back to her. He tells her, "In the past, I might have come back because I loved you with all my heart, but now I see you were selfish and chose to travel and leave me. I don't have feelings for you anymore. Still, I'll never forget you because no matter what, you were my friend. But now I love the heroine and I can't stay away from her." She's shaken by his words, starts crying, apologizes, admits she regrets what she did, and says if time went back, she wouldn't do it again. She wishes him a happy life, says goodbye, and leaves. John decides to confess his feelings to Sarah. He looks for her all over the village, but can't find her, so he goes to the station to ask about her and learns from her boss that she went to help a farmer on his land. He goes there, but finds Young instead. John is surprised that Young keeps asking him lots of questions about his life and says, "So Sarah must have rejected you. That's why you're playing the big brother role and want to make sure she's okay with me." Young gets nervous, refuses to answer, and asks John to help with the work until Sarah arrives. She eventually comes and tries to hide when she sees him, but he follows her and asks to talk. He asks why she's been ignoring him and gathers his courage to confess his feelings, telling her he loves her. She's about to confess too and finally live a love story, but she bumps into a crate and the fruit falls on her. John rushes to protect her, taking the fruit on his head instead, and asks her to be with him right there. But she feels guilty and afraid of coming between him and his girlfriend, so she says, "Your feelings are confused right now," and leaves. She keeps thinking about what he said, her heart pounding, unable to believe he confessed to her. By coincidence, she meets the nurse, who tells her John's grandfather is about to return to the village, which means John will go back to the city. The news shocks her and makes her sad that she won't see him again, but she tells herself he'll be happy with his girlfriend. When she gets home, she finds John's ex waiting for her. She thanks her for letting her stay, apologizes for what she said before, and tells her, "John's feelings for you are real. He loves you, not me. Please don't do what I did and lose him." Sarah is touched by her words and decides to take her advice. She grabs her bike and rushes to catch him. When she finds him, she asks when he's going back to the city. He says, "Maybe in about a week," thinking she came to say goodbye. But she cuts him off without warning, steps closer, and kisses him. Suddenly, the nurse walks walks in and ruins the romantic moment. Perfect timing. Sarah hides so she won't be seen. John goes to her and asks if she wants them to date secretly so no one sees them. She says, "I wish, I really do, because if the villagers find out we're together, they'll force us to get married." He holds her hand and reassures her, then goes back to work and promises to call her when he's done, as if nothing happened. Sarah goes home happy, full of butterflies, living her best moments. So happy she hugs her dog tightly. She starts taking care of herself to look good for him. That night, John sends her a message saying he's waiting for her outside. She's thrilled and goes out to meet him. Both are nervous and shy around each other. He suggests taking her to the city so they can relax, and no one from the village will see them. She agrees and gets into his car. They go to the city. He takes her to his clinic so she can see where he works, and she likes it. Then they go out to eat, joke, laugh, and spend a lovely time together. At the end of the day, he drives her back to the village and walks her to her door. She calls him, "Doctor," and he says, "No, like this we won't survive together. No more of that. From now on, call me my love." She gets embarrassed and says, "Okay, I'll try," then goes inside, hugging her dog and practicing talking to him like he's John to get braver. The next day at work, she keeps holding her phone, waiting for John to message her. Her boss is surprised because that's not like her and starts to suspect something. Suddenly, John walks in. Sarah gets flustered and asks why he came. He lies and says he wants to check her dog. So she goes out with him and they get into his car. He tells her he was just making excuses to see her because he missed her, and he leans closer to buckle her seatbelt. But suddenly, the boy and his girlfriend appear, shouting, "Uncle! Uncle, remember me? I missed you." The heroes get startled, but the boy tells them he and his girlfriend are dating and asks them not to tell anyone in the village. John is shocked and thinks to himself, even kids are afraid the villagers will find out they're dating. After that, everyone goes back to work. Sarah goes to help the village chief and fixes her light. A woman from the rival village arrives and asks Sarah to help her too, but in a rude way. This time, Sarah doesn't stay silent. She gets upset with her, and everyone is surprised by her reaction, because usually she never refuses to help anyone. She leaves and goes to meet John. They go out together, and she tells him that ever since they started dating, she's become bolder. "Anyone who gives me 2 words, I give them 4 back." John is happy with what she says and wants to celebrate the happy occasion, but she's afraid the restaurant owner might see them and find out about their relationship, so they come up with a plan. John goes into the restaurant first, then Sarah enters afterward as if she just ran into him by chance, sits with him, and their plan works. They eat together happily, then go out and head to Young's cafe. The only one who knows about their relationship, he wishes them happiness and tells Sarah he's there if she ever needs anything. She's happy with his words and thanks him. When John walks her home, he leans in to say goodbye, but suddenly they hear someone shouting and get scared, thinking they've been exposed. Then they realize the shouting isn't for them. They go toward the noise and find out that John's nurse is secretly dating someone, and a woman from the village saw them. So John had to say he's her boyfriend because the woman thought he was a thief. They take him to the clinic to talk. John learns they're dating and had broken up for a while, hiding their relationship from the villagers. John thinks the guy is playing with her and about to break her heart, since the nurse is kind and innocent, but the guy assures him he truly loves her and came all the way from the city just to see her. Sarah is touched by their story and happy that they're not the only ones dating in secret. The next day, they plan to go to the movies together at night. Sarah is excited and starts getting ready, but her boss calls and needs her urgently. At the same time, John also gets work, so each of them has to handle their responsibilities. Sarah ends up helping an elderly woman with Alzheimer's who's lost, searching everywhere until she finds her and returns her to her family. At night, she wants to go meet John and go to the movies like they planned. After all, it's their first date, and it can't be ruined, but her boss invites her to dinner and insists she come. She has to agree, so he won't suspect anything. She messages John, tells him what happened, and says she'll try to get away quickly to meet him. They barely arrive at dinner when she eats 1 spoonful and says, "Thank God I'm full. I'm leaving now." Her boss is surprised, but suddenly a fight breaks out in the restaurant, forcing Sarah to stay and resolve it. She misses the date and feels upset that she can't relax or see John the way she wants. She drinks to improve her mood and messages John, asking him to meet her at the village radio station. John accepts immediately and says, "On my eyes and head, I'll be waiting for you." But the village chief sees him standing there and comes over, saying, "Lucky you. I don't want to say this, but I was waiting for you because I have all the worries of the world and chose to tell them to you." Sarah arrives angry and at her limit and decides to let everyone know about their relationship so they'll leave them alone. She gathers her courage, enters the radio station, grabs the microphone and says, "People of the village, look right and left. I chose the right, and from now on I'm telling you, he and I are together. "Dear villagers, John and I love each other, so leave us alone and let us meet." John is shocked by what she does and thinks she's lost it. He runs to stop her, but she tells him, "Love me in public, brother. I'm not a crime." He laughs at her words and takes her down. Outside, they find the village chief and everyone waiting and realize they all already knew about their relationship from the start. The chief laughs and says, "There was no need for all this. We knew already. We were just pretending." Our heroes are happy they can finally be at ease, walk together happily, and when they get home, decide to dress up and exchange rings to officially announce their engagement. Each tells the other, "I love you." Time passes, and we learn that John left the village and went back to the city, while Sarah returned to her old life as a police officer and kept helping the villagers. One day, while she's taking the child to school, she runs into the nurse and talks with her. The nurse asks about her relationship with John, but Sarah says they can't talk much because they're always busy with work. After work, she video calls him to check on him, and he looks hurt and tells her he fell down the stairs, but didn't tell her, so she wouldn't worry. She cries and scolds him for hiding something like that from her, then hangs up. She goes to sit with Young and tells him what happened. Suddenly, she gets a message from John apologizing. Sarah is worried and doesn't know what to do, and Young tells her to take his car and go check on him in the city. She's overjoyed, thanks him, and drives as fast as she can until she reaches his clinic. When she sees him, she hugs him, apologizes for her words, and promises to visit him often to check on him. He's moved and apologizes too for hiding it from her, promising not to do it again. They make up, and their relationship returns to normal. A year passes, and we learn that Sarah was promoted at work, while Young's cafe became famous, and everyone goes there. Sarah goes to the clinic to vaccinate her dog, but is surprised to find John there. She's happy to see him. He brought her flowers and congratulated her on her promotion. He tells her his grandfather got older and decided to leave the clinic and go with him, so he thought, "This is my chance," and that he'll take over the clinic because now is the time for them to get married. Sarah is overjoyed and can't believe she'll see him every day. John gives her wedding rings, this time real rings, not paper ones. She's touched. They put the rings on each other and decide to get married and continue their lives together. From now on, her childhood friend who grew up with her has become the love of her life she'll marry. And that's our series ends here. Please like and subscribe. See you in the next drama. Goodbye. Our series begins with Xiao. She is riding the bus on her way to university, her very first day of college life. Unfortunately, it doesn't start off well. The bus suddenly stops. Xiao loses her balance and